In Rampur village, the morning always started with the sound of sheep, and for Gopal, the stark reality of a leaking mud roof. He shared this crumbling space with his ailing mother, Shanti, where the walls radiated heat like an oven during the summer and offered little protection from the elements. But the decaying roof was secondary to Shanti's health. Every morning, Gopal's first instinct was to check her fever. He routinely swallowed his own gnawing hunger, insisting she eat whatever meager scraps remained before he walked out to the pastures. That fragile routine shattered the afternoon a neighbor ran out to the fields. Shanti was convulsing with a severe fever, her frail body barely able to stay conscious. Carrying her to the local doctor yielded a grim prescription, a 15,000 rupee hospital admission. With exactly 20 rupees in his pocket, the figure sounded like fiction. Terrified, he had no choice but to carry her back home to wait. This is the brutal math of absolute destitution. It removes all agency, reducing a human being's choices to watching a loved one fade away simply because the toll for survival is a few thousand rupees out of reach. Later that night, a violent thunderstorm scattered Gopal's flock into the dark woods. As he searched blindly through the freezing downpour, a bright set of high beams cut through the blackness. The woman who stepped out was Savitri Devi. She possessed enough capital to buy the entire village of Rampur several times over, yet she lived inside her sprawling Raj Mahal palace in a state of perpetual, heavy isolation. Refusing to leave the shivering boy in the storm, she brought him into her estate. For Gopal, sitting in wet clothes before plates of warm, rich food he had never even imagined, the marble floors felt like an alien planet. Savitri watched Gopal as he ate, his hands shaking slightly from the cold. As she studied his features, she noticed a specific familiarity in his eyes, a resemblance to her own son, who had vanished without a trace years ago. In this moment, the immense distance between a marble floor and a mud hut seems to vanish. Despite the luxury of the room, they are two people who have spent years navigating their own versions of survival. Savitri didn't hesitate when she learned of Shanti's condition. She ordered her driver to the village clinic that very night, absorbing the entire cost of the emergency care without a second thought. But charity across class lines rarely goes unpunished. Whispers tore through Rampur, turning a life-saving act into scandalous gossip. The loudest voice belonged to Vikram Singh. Viewing human interaction through asset management, he saw Gopal as a direct threat. He didn't use force, he weaponized the town's prejudice. Vikram actively fanned the rumors, ensuring Gopal felt the stinging mockery, knowing the proud boy would withdraw to protect Savitri. It is a calculated maneuver. Moral outrage and class divides are often artificially amplified, serving as convenient cover for individuals protecting their own financial interests. The pressure worked. Unable to endure the public humiliation, Gopal arrived at the palace gates one final time, telling Savitri he could never return. Hearing this, the carefully maintained facade of the stoic widow finally cracked. She pleaded with him to stay, confessing the agonizing reality of living in a mansion, surrounded by staff, but devoid of family. To explain her pain, she pulled out a worn piece of history. It was the last image of her son, Aryan, before he was taken at a fair. Gopal froze. The child in the picture was a mirror. He slowly pulled a tarnished locket from his shirt, a pendant he had worn since infancy, bearing the exact same mark, just like the boy in the photograph. Standing just outside the heavy wooden doors, Vikram heard the entire exchange. The color drained from his face as he hastily retreated, his quiet panic confirming exactly who had arranged the kidnapping years prior. Time can bury a crime, but it cannot erase the physical evidence. A single photograph and a piece of stamped metal are enough to dismantle years of lies, stripping power from the guilty. Before the shock could settle, a messenger arrived from the hospital. Shanti's lungs were failing. As Gopal rushed to her bedside, she pulled off her oxygen mask to admit a painful truth. She had found him crying alone at a fair, and with no family of her own, she took him in. Meanwhile, the legal reality was snapping into place. Police swarmed the estate to arrest Vikram, whose desperate plot had finally come full circle. Back in the sterile hospital room, a brutal, emotional collision occurred. Savitri stood at the doorway, finally looking at the biological son she had spent a lifetime searching for, while Gopal wept over the fading heartbeat of the only mother he had ever known. It forces a profound question about identity. When the undeniable truth of a person's DNA collides with the lived reality of their childhood, the concept of family has to be completely redefined. Shanti's final words were a quiet rejection of biological obligation. She believed motherhood was a daily act of love, rather than a matter of birthright. Following her passing, the legal dust settled. The boy who couldn't afford a 15,000 rupee medical bill was legally recognized as Aryan, the sole heir to the sprawling Raj Mahal estate. But he refused to let the money rot his character the way it had Vikram's. He systematically liquidated half of the family's assets, pouring the capital directly into the village to build a massive free medical facility named the Shanti Ma Hospital. By opening the hospital, Gopal ensures that Shanti's philosophy survives her. He transformed an inheritance defined by greed into a resource that ensures no other family is forced to make the impossible choices he once did.